Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a great week this week. Happy Friday. It is the end of another long week, and I have a project that I have been putting off for quite a while. I've got American Team Championship Tournament tomorrow, and I have been neglecting my own Stormtroopers for quite a while now. So today I'm going to paint my Stormtroopers up, show you how I would finish them, so I've already primed them. I'll talk about what I did for priming, how I prepped them to where they're at right now, and then show you how I'm going to finish them off. So won't be able to show you the priming steps, which is honestly about half the paint. So stick around if you want to see how to paint Stormtroopers, and then we'll probably do another live stream just a little bit later. I have another project that I need to finish of my own that I've been putting off for a little while. So taking a few minutes to paint my own models, then I'll get back to other customers' models as soon as I am done with my stuff. So thanks for joining. Give me just a second. So first things, as I was saying, is that I have had these Stormtroopers primed and in a drawer and ready to be painted for a long time, and I keep looking at my list building every time I try to build a tournament list and saying I can't build that list because I've not painted my other squad of Stormtroopers yet, and being the painter that I am, I can't play with unpainted miniatures. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that problem today. So what I've got is I have a full squad of Stormtroopers, basic Legion Stormtroopers, that I primed with Res paint that acts like it's not paint, sorry, Res primer, but that's going to be the base for our paint job here. And what I've done is, it looks like white on camera, but it is not pure white. You can maybe see the difference if I hold them up together. It's actually a really light gray. So I take a little bit of my gray primer, a little bit of my white primer, and go for almost a spaceship exterior color if you're looking at Army Painter paints. And so I mix that up in my cup to get it to the right consistency I want it. Mix it up, and then spray the entire model with that. Take my gun that I've got here, and I spray down the entire miniature in my paint booth, and that's my base primer. Once that dries, I take and I add some more white to it, and then I do about just a little bit of white, and I hold my gun at about a 45-degree angle if you were at the side, and I spray around the miniature that way. And then I take pure white and I do a just top down. And what that's going to do is that's going to build in some of your highlights. And then later, when we come back in, we'll put some more of those highlights back in after we're done painting them. So that's how I got to the step that I'm at, is with my airbrush, sprayed them down. And now we're going to go ahead and start applying our blacks and blues and other colors that we need to on these guys. So first things first is I need to grab my Army Painter Necromancer cloak. Give that a good shake. This is going to be our base black for everything that is black on the Stormtroopers. Gun, boot soles, black armor pieces, eyes, eyebrow is going to be done with this Necromancer cloak. If you're watching, I would appreciate if you were able to like and maybe share this video with groups that you might enjoy, be it via YouTube here, Facebook, wherever. I haven't shared this anywhere, so I'm just hoping to see what I can get natural viewer-wise. So the other thing that I do is when I paint my Stormtroopers, they're not assembled. They look like they're assembled, but all of their arms are actually removable, because I find them easier to paint with their arms off. This guy is coming off of his little plinth thing. I think I can work with him as is. So if you're watching, leave a message in the comments. Let me know you're there. I'd like to interact with you. Got to knock these out before tomorrow. Need them for my tournament list for tomorrow. Get them all lined up. The only guy that I do attach the arms on is the captain, because I can get to all those areas there. And so what I'll do is I'm going to paint all the bodies. I'll come back and I'll paint all the arms. But the captain, we're going to go ahead and start with him. And we'll get him going, because he's one full assembled miniature. So thin that out just quite a bit too much. Still a little bit thinner than I wanted it to be. I'm using a size 0 brush here. Again, I know a lot of people paint with 2s. I cannot. I have tried. I shake way too much and end up getting paint in lots of places that I don't want to paint at. So I have to go with the smaller brush, which means I am dipping into my paint palette much more frequently than other people might be, which is the unfortunate downside. So you can paint with the size too if you want. If you get one with a nice tip on there, I promise you can do some really fine details with it. I am just too entirely shaky for that. Alrighty. They will get, once we get all the blacks on and all the colors on, they will get a very light washing with some very thin down dark tone, and that's just to add a little bit of shade. I don't care to have mine look perfect, bright, and shiny. So the wash, I think, looks good to me. Some people prefer to do panel lines. I'm not going through all that. So if you would like to do that, there are plenty of painters out there who do that kind of thing. I'm just showing you the quick way that I do mine. And to be honest, part of the reason I put these off of Stormtroopers are some of my least favorite miniatures to paint. Mostly because they're a pain. White and black are my not particularly favorite colors to paint. So that's part of why I've been just procrastinating, honestly, on painting these guys. In fact, the last tournament I went to, I borrowed some Dan Wolf Games Stormtroopers. They were models that I painted for him, so I didn't feel bad borrowing them because I actually painted them. But, you know, I did borrow some because I didn't want to paint these guys. That's how much I was putting off painting them. Again, we're not going for perfect with my paint style. We're going for looks great at 3 feet. Keep that in mind if you're watching. Looks great at 3 feet. got some paint in there. Yeah, I didn't want it. That and all these little armor lines. Whew, I hate painting these things on Stormtroopers. They do take a while because of all the little fiddly black bits. They take a minute to paint. So, for the eyes, I just get a brush, take some thin down necromancer, and touch it in the center and let it flow out to where it needs to. We'll come out and we'll highlight around the eyes anyways later, so if you get a little bit around the edge of the eyes, that's fine. And then for the brow ridge, I tend to try to use just a little bit thicker paint to make sure it doesn't flow to places I don't want it to. For that little piece over the mouth, really thin down some of it, apply it, wash your brush, and then I go back over it with some water so that I can pull it out with another brush. You really want to just kind of leave some in the recesses to give that illusion of paint in there. Get in there. Forgot to paint the back of this holster. And we'll touch up any mistakes with white highlight paint later during the highlighting phase. All right, one guy's down, a lot more to go. So what I'm actually going to do real quick is I'm going to paint up all the inside parts of the arms so that those can be drying while I'm waiting. So all these little parts that would be black against the shoulders, they're going to get painted up with necromancer cloak. And the reason we're using necromancer cloak is we can wash it down. It's a really dark gray and it washes down into a nice black once you put a wash on there. Just throwing stuff. The other thing I've done is I have, if you've watched my Bosk stream from last night, I have prepped my bases. They are drying underneath the table with the Liquitex Resin Sand on them. we're going to do basing on stream for these guys as well. My army is a forest theme. My table that I built is an Endor theme. And so we're going to base them up as if they're on a forest. With simple, cheap basing materials that look great. I paid $0 for these basing materials. And I'll show you what they are later. So stick around if you want to see my budget basing materials. Alright, while those are drying, let's get to working on some of these other guys. So, we've got the big DLT Trooper. He has a very large backpack on him. We'll see how quickly we can get these guys done so that I can move on to finishing the other half of my Rebel Specialist, or sorry, Imperial Specialist boxes. Because I've been putting those off also. And they're the Medbots, and Medbots are pretty popular in Legion. And I figure I need to have some available. I may need them for my list tomorrow. I have not decided that yet. Let me know what you think if I should run Medbots on my list, if you're watching. Soles of his boots. Don't forget those. I've seen a lot of people not paint these, and they look naked without their bottoms of their boots black. For some reason. I don't know why. It's just, it just doesn't look right. Make sure you paint them. It doesn't take a whole lot of work because you don't have to worry about getting it down too far, and honestly they're on the feet, and so if it's not perfectly even, people aren't going to notice that. Do your best. That's all you can ask for, is your best. So, all of their not DL44, E11 are going to be black as well. Well, necromancer cloak, which is what we're using as black. I've gotten some questions about why I don't use Army Painter Primer, and it's because I prime indoors, and I have an airbrush, and Army Painter doesn't have indoor primer, so, or airbrush primer. So I use Badger, and I've been very happy with it. that has served me well. But as far as the rest of my paints, it's Army Painter. I am an avid Army Painter fan. We're not doing any touch-up right now. We'll do touch-ups later. Fix areas that we've messed up, missed. I hope you all enjoyed my Bosk live stream if you watched it last night. If you haven't, go back and catch it. It's recorded on the channel. I hope it was informative. And helpful. We painted up 2 Bosks on live stream. 2 of them simultaneously. Sorry, I was looking at something on this model. There was a weird spot that I don't remember seeing on other ones like this. But we got it taken care of. Two down. Like I said, Stormtroopers are some of my least favorite models to paint because it's just black and white. You don't get to have a whole lot of fun with them unless you want to go with some of the specialty schemes, which I have done. If you want to see some, I have red ones that I've done. I have black Inferno looking troopers that I've done. Did a whole bunch of black Inferno looking troopers for my son for Christmas, who is younger and is just starting to get into gaming, and so he loves Star Wars. He was drooling over my stuff, and so I gave him an ATST, some snowtroopers, some stormtroopers that I painted up for him, a Darth Vader, a Boba Fett, a Veers, a couple other things, and painted them all for him as a surprise for Christmas. But those were black and all black with red stripes on them, and they looked really slick. I really liked them. But if you scroll back to about December on my Facebook page, you'll be able to see those models. Again, we're just real quick blocking in some colors on these Stormtroopers. I'm going to be somewhat quiet on this stream for the most part. Mostly because, one, there's nobody in here that I can tell. And two, I'm trying to work pretty quick, but this is what... I know it looks messy right now. I promise we will clean it up later. I'm all about get your base coats down now. You can clean up others later. Other stuff later. Just don't do like I did and put a big blob onto the side of this foot. That's a mistake you need to fix right now. So what's likely to happen is he will turn, or that will turn into a dirt mark later. Because, yeah. That's how I fix things sometimes. Sometimes with the hot glue that I use, it can make it hard to do the soles on the boots. Because the hot glue likes to wrap up around the foot. Alright. I don't know why I'm using such a small brush on these eyes. I don't usually do that, and it's on the brow tine, and it's making it real hard. To get nice coverage. I see why. Because this brush is wearing out, but it's alright. We'll make that work. Let me know if you're there. If you're out there watching. I really enjoy interacting with my viewers. We're just putting the black on these Stormtroopers, which is a monotonous, tedious task. Very repetitive task. But once you get the technique down, a whole squad of Stormtroopers don't take very long to get knocked out. Especially if you have an airbrush. It makes that white much easier. Whew. His eyes look rough. Better. Two more bodies. Two more Stormtrooper bodies to do. One of them will likely never see the table anytime soon, and that's this Rocket Man. I've been tempted to do a conversion and make it, turn him into a kneeling regular trooper, but I'm worried about the tournament legality of that. And since I do play competitive, I have to keep that in mind. Some of y'all won't have to keep that in mind. You can do whatever you would like as far as modding your Legion models, because you just have to worry about, does the guy across the table really care? And to be honest, if you're playing friendly and they do care, find new people to play with, because they're not very friendly. But if you're playing competitive, I get models need to be at least somewhat as intended. While the sculpts look cool, I'm sure the model makers take that into account when they're making the models, like how they'll play on the table. I mean, I'm assuming they do. I'm assuming they take that into account. I don't know. I've never sculpted a model before. I have tried. I'm not very handy in 3D Blender or anything like that. I've seen some very talented Legion sculptors making some very cool custom models. I don't own any third-party sculpts. They look cool, but again, being the tournament player that I am, tournament legality comes into question for me. I am going to paint one for Dan Wolf Games. I have a Starkiller model that he wants me to paint for him, so I will get to paint one, I just won't own one. It's all primed and ready to paint. I just have to get to painting it. I did on the X-34 Landspeeder I did. the Rhodian that can ride on there. On Dan Wolf's speeder, I magnetized it so he can come off, and I made him a separate base so that you could use him as a sniper if you wanted to. It looks pretty slick, if you ask me. Because he'll magnetize to the base or to the truck. Speeder, whatever it is. The Space Jalopy. I've got another one of those to paint for Dan Wolf. We'll see about doing that one on stream, maybe. Later. Not today. Another day. I need to finish the rest of the dungeon doggies that I've been painting for the past couple weeks. I'm halfway done with them. I need to get that out to the customer before Gen Con. I'm running out of time. I've got about 2 weeks before Gen Con. And I have quite a few projects to go. Trying to pump as many projects out before Gen Con as possible, in the hopes that I have spending money in case Legion releases the Clone War era stuff there, because I'm excited for droids. I want all of them, but I'm most excited for droids, because, I mean, they're droids. Come on. I realized I forgot a couple spots on some of these guys, and I'm going to go back and grab them real quick before I completely forget about them. So they're little armor pads that are on their body. Need to get those painted black also. So I'm going to go through and do all those real fast before I finish this guy fully. If they... Some of them you won't be able to see, so you're just going to kind of look and see if you'll be able to see it with the arm on. I think once I finish this guy real quick, I'm going to take a quick second to change the music. This music's getting a little on my nerves. Maybe we need some good 8-bit electronica or something. Chip tunes. We'll see what I find once I finish this. Alright, let's see what I can find music-wise real quick. Alright, next up, we've got to do all of our arms here. So all of the guns and everything. The other thing I don't like about the Stormtroopers is the way their arms are molded. Once they're painted and you're trying to pop them back together, oh good night, they're hard. Without scratching the paint. I wish they would have done like they've done with the Snowtroopers and all subsequent releases, where the arms are two separate pieces instead of this compression fit arm thing that they decided to do. It's really kind of annoying. But say la vie, do what you can. And you can work as hard as you want on these Stormtroopers, or as little as you want. I mean, you could not paint all these black areas and just hit them with a wash, and I promise you they'll look better than gray painted, or gray plastic Stormtroopers. Promise. Or you can sit there and use a single hair brush and try to paint all of them. So the big rocket launcher. And that goes for all miniatures. Paint to the level that you're happy with. Don't try to match other people's paint. Don't try to say, well, I have to be as good as this person in order to paint, because A, we all started somewhere. Some people have more natural talent up front, but I promise you with lots of practice you can develop it. I was not a great painter when I started. If you saw my original Legion models, not Star Wars Legion, back I started wargaming, well, I started painting my wargaming back with a game called Hordes. It's War Machine's Hordes. And I had Legion of Everblight. And I went with a bright green and purple scheme. And while the scheme had the potential to be cool, my painting made it not. But I stuck with it, and I kept, and each time I got a new model, when I painted it, you could tell the improvement over time. And then I moved on to painting some 40k stuff, and then some Flames of War stuff. And it just slowly got better and better. And then all of the other stuff that I've painted. So, take your time, practice. Don't be afraid to mess up your models. You can strip them if they're mispainted and restart over. There is model safe stripping stuff out there. And if you're really too afraid to mess up your models, buy practice models. There are brands of models out there that are just a couple bucks per model. Practice on them. That's what I buy my son to paint. Because he wants to practice. He doesn't want to paint his Legion stuff. He wants me to paint it for him, so he wants stuff to paint that he's not afraid to say, look, I made this, and it's the best I could do. I'm gonna have to get more necromancer cloak out soon. I'm almost out on my palette. Go through quite a bit of it with these Stormtroopers. I will be glad when we're done painting this black, because I hate painting black, hate painting white. I think I've mentioned that once or twice this stream. More Necro Cloak. I'm going to give it a really good shake this time. It felt a little bit thinner than I wanted it to be in that batch. Alright. Yeah, that's much better. On to the DL44. Or DLT, I mean. Not DL44. DLT. And we'll highlight this later with some gunmetal, just a little bit, to give it the illusion of some sparkles, but the Imperial guns are mostly black and neat in color. You gotta remember, it's the Imperials. They actually take care of their stuff. Unlike those dirty rebel scum. In case you needed to know which army I play primarily. You know, people say the rebels were the good guys and Imperials were the bad guys. The way I see it, you just have an army trying, or a government trying to bring peace to the galaxy. And a bunch of traitors keep order in the galaxy. And a bunch of traitorous rebels come in and start blowing stuff up. If the rebels wouldn't have been trying to blow stuff up, the Empire wouldn't have pursued them. Only 3 more arms to go. Only 3 more. Sorry about that. Didn't hit my mic on my headphone cord. I hope if you watch these live streams they're helpful and you learn. It's not just so that I can say, hey, watch me paint. I mean, it's fine if that's what you want to watch, but my goal is to show you maybe some of the techniques that I forget to talk about while I'm painting. And maybe you'll see something and say, oh, hey, how'd you do that? Or why'd you do that? Or what did you do that for? So, if you see me doing something and I didn't talk about it for some reason, feel free to just type something in the chat. If you're watching this after the stream is over, leave a comment and I'll answer. I have decided on what my format's going to be. So I was contemplating on whether I'm going to... I want to do both tutorials and live streams, and I was trying to figure out what the best way to do both of them was. And so, as I was editing down the ATRT tutorial, because I didn't paint that on stream, I just painted it, but I was going to make a tutorial video out of it. I just don't have the time to edit down 2 hours of content into a 20-minute video. So what I plan to do is my live streams will be me not complaining. I'll probably complain about something on live stream, but will be me completing complete models. So I will paint like I did Bosk, like I'm doing Stormtroopers here on live stream. And then my videos are going to be techniques that I use. So when I do tutorial videos, it'll be like, here's how I highlight skin up, or here's how I dry brush, or here's how I, different things like that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. You let me know what you think of that idea. I know there's tons of different technique videos out there, how to do a dry brush, or how to highlight, or how to wet blend, or how to do anything you want painting wise. But everybody has a different way of explaining things, and different people learn from different methods. And so if I can add a way out there, maybe it'll click with somebody that didn't click with me, or click with that maybe... What I'm trying to say is, maybe somebody will find my video and it will click with them, whereas other painters didn't click with them for some reason. Maybe just their way of explaining was not as in the method that that person's brain worked. Everyone perceives and processes things differently. So, that's my plan. I think that's what we're going to do moving forward. So, I'm contemplating whether I'm going to finish editing this ATRT or just leave it as is. I still need to record the voiceover for it. I know I said I would have that up yesterday, but I focused more on getting Bosk done and didn't get to the ATRT tutorial, so I do apologize for that. I've been trying to pump out new content as quickly as possible so that you guys can have just the best from my paint channel. Well, I mean, not the best, but have a level of quality. I am by far not the best painter out there, and I never will be. I paint to a level that I am satisfied with, and you'll hear me say that consistently throughout all of my streams. If I can get better as I do it, and I paint better, awesome. Which is part of the reason I've started this channel, is that it's going to push me to paint more often and motivate me. I was losing some Motivation. And you'll hear people talk about, well, how do you get motivation? How do you find motivation? Sometimes you have to make motivation. Change something. If you're burning out, change something. I was burning out on miniature painting for a minute. Not that I didn't enjoy it, I just didn't feel like doing it as often as I needed to. And ever since I got this stream going, talked to some buddies, told them what my plans were, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. And it's been exciting. I've been checking some of the numbers, and you guys are watching this stuff. So, as long as you keep watching it, I'll keep doing it. I need to find a way for it to post to my Facebook page whenever I go live on YouTube. I'm sure there's something that does that. Alright. We've got all our black done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little crystal blue. I know Stormtroopers blue. Hold on a second, I'll show you. I'm shaking up my crystal blue. We won't need very much at all for what we're going to do here. Take it, we're going to thin it out a little bit. And there's little vents right here. We're going to touch it in there, and it really makes it look nice. One of the sets of trooper helmets has these blue vents on there. So, I like the blue. All of mine have it. You don't have to. You can just let it be black if you want. This guy's is a little bit hard to do over here because he's shrugging. And it doesn't take long, and it just adds that little color pop that blue does. Really breaks up the monotony of the white and black. If you're just joining us, thanks for stopping by. Leave a message in the chat, let me know you're there. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. It's very helpful for me. Alrighty. Alright, next we have to do the pauldron on this guy. So, for that, I have mythical orange. I'm going to give that a shake. Shake, shake, shake up my mythical orange. Thin it down just a little bit. And this is going to take a few coats to get nice, even coverage. So we'll put one on, we'll go to work on something else, we'll come back and put another one on, and it'll take a few. And I'm intentionally not getting the sides. We're going to go back over with black later, and we're going to do the sides underneath it with black. So we'll let that dry, and we'll come back and apply another coat of mythical orange in just a minute. So the other thing I want to do is that I really like, and I take this electric blue, and on the DLT pack, there's a couple spots I like to paint blue. It just makes it look like power. So, crystal blue, give it a good shake. This one likes to separate a lot for some reason. I don't know why. So make sure if you're using this electric blue, that you shake it well. It's one of the few colors in Army Painter that I have the pigments separate out of regularly. So, there's a little power pack looking thing right here in the center. We're going to paint that. And then this little thing right here is going to get painted as well. And I'm not too worried about making a little bit of a mess with this little area here, because I can come back in. I didn't mean to wet it that much though. I'll come back in with my necromancer cloak / black, and we'll clean it up in just a little bit. But all of my Stormtroopers DLTs have that on the back. So, alright. I'm going to start putting some arms on some dudes so that we can get them glued together and washed, and then we'll be getting close to being done with these guys. So I don't want to touch him too much, but this is the hardest part that I don't like doing too, is matching arms. Find the arm that matches. There's a spot or two on this rocket launcher that needed a little bit more necromancer cloak applied to it. So that'll dry for a minute. Excuse the tapping, I gotta get my super glue down into the end of it. Oh crap, it's spit everywhere. I grabbed my empty bottle. Hopefully that'll be okay. Luckily it seems to have spit mostly into the armhole. So, these are hard to get on. You gotta peel them apart just a little bit. And then this bottle is too empty. I need to, next time I'm at the store, I need to get some more super glue. I'm running out. I'm running out of a lot of materials. I need to make a general material run soon. I'm very clumsy. Regularly. I find it easier to apply the glue to the armholes rather than the arms themselves, because then you can position the arms without getting glue all over your finger. And if you accidentally touch the model, then you don't get glue all over the model. Okay. Next. Remember, when applying super glue, less is more. It doesn't take very much. Missed the very tip of this guy's gun. Alright, so this guy I was given the wrong arm for in the box. So we had to do some slight chopping to make it fit. So he doesn't have pegs. We're just going to stick his arms on where they look good. Not that high. That doesn't look good. That looks good. And the Rocket Man. Holding him for a minute to make sure the arm glues in where I want it to. Okay. Alright. Back to our captain that needs his arm worked on. Let me put the lid on my glue. Grab some more of my orange paint. Coat number 2. In case you're keeping track at home of how many coats of orange I end up putting on this guy. I'm guessing 4 to 5. That's what it's going to take. But go thin, because then they dry quicker and you can get them applied on faster. So. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is... need to wash them, but I need to finish that guy's shoulder pad. As soon as it works on drying, I can show you what my bases are looking like. We've got the Liquitex Resin Sand that I had talked about. I went really high peaks on this one. Gave it some really cool 3D texture. Excuse my dogs barking in the background. So, once that's dry, we'll get it all decorated. Usually what I'll do is I'll just sit one evening for about 45 minutes and just take all of my bases that I've got and make a batch of them. And I throw them in a drawer, and when I need bases out, I pull them out. So, right now I haven't done that in a while, so I've run out of bases that are pre-made and ready to go. So I kind of just raid open all my boxes of Legion stuff and throw all the bases into one drawer. Coat number 3. And we could probably call that done. So, 3 coats. Not as bad as I anticipated. So we'll go in here, do our necromancer cloak, and we're going to touch up the edges of underneath. There. We'll do this side here. Be careful working with wet paint near wet paint. They do like to bleed together sometimes. And then we'll go under here. Or you end up doing like I just did and accidentally bleeding over into the color on top. But you won't notice it. It will be a shade color once it's done. So, alright. Put my wet palette away. Get my wash palette out. We're going to use Army Painter Dark Tone. But I get to do my favorite thing in the world real quick and peel out my paint wells. It's just a weird obsession I have. I intentionally don't clean them out after each paint session so I can do this. I don't know why. I am odd. Shake it up, and we're going to put a few drops in there. Alright, and as I said earlier, we're going to thin this out. So if we thin it too far, we lose some of our flow ability. And so we're going to add a drop of flow aid to it, or 2 on accident. 1's usually enough. You don't want to add too much of it. And then a little bit of water. Well, a bit of water. And grab my wash brush. Let's see where we're at consistency wise. A little bit thicker than I want to be. So, a little bit more water. That's about right. And here's what we do. I'm going to test on this rocket guy, who apparently I forgot to finish painting underneath his butt. So we'll fix that real quick. So we won't test on that guy. We'll just grab generic trooper number 1. I don't know if he's actually number 1, and we're just going to brush this on. Like I said, I don't care for a grayer looking Stormtrooper because I'm going to highlight anyways, so. And I try to pull off some of the wash off of areas where I don't want it to pool. But I'm not going to wash the guns with this because we'll come back later and we're going to hit the black, some of the black areas with pure black. So, but this is what I like to do for my Stormtroopers. And then I wet my brush off and I go back over the higher areas. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring these back up with spaceship exterior. a little bit later. It won't require a whole lot of work, but the effect that you'll get is going to look great. I promise. So, one done. Really make sure you take as much of the wash off the helmet as you can, off the top of it. So once you put it on there, clean your brush real quick and go back and take it off. In fact, sometimes I'll even use my finger to do it. Reason being is that that's your highlight. You really want your brightest areas to be near the head. And you've got to work quick when doing this, so that it doesn't have time to dry in places you don't want it to. Alright, to clean this brush off and take it off the areas that I don't want it to be as dull. Alright, 2 done. So apply to the head, wet your brush, pull it off the top of the helmet. Make sure you get wash everywhere on the Mini. Nothing looks worse than looking around a Mini and all of a sudden seeing a part that the wash missed. And be careful not to spray or flick wash all over when you're doing this, because it looks terrible if it gets splatters on them, unless you're going for that look, but most people aren't going for that with Stormtroopers. If you are going for that look, feel free to flick away if you want to. Again, just going back, cleaning up some of the areas I know will be white highlights so that we make our job easier later for that wash dress. I'm painting this off stream, aren't I? Haha. Because I had my palette in the way. everybody has their own style of painting Stormtroopers, if you go out there and watch them. Some people don't like the gray-ish look that I'm going for. They do panel lines. I prefer this look. The panel lines to me just look unnatural for some reason. It's all in the personal preference. So if you like my method, great. If you like somebody else's method, great. Do what you like. They are your minis. Enjoy it. You're going to hear me say that a lot throughout if you stick around my channel for any amount of time. You paint however it makes you happy. If I have learned from a lot of different painters over the time that I've been watching. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. And I'll see a painter that I'm like, oh, you know, I like how they did that technique-wise, but I don't like what the final product looked like. So I'll take that technique and I will make it my own somehow. Or, you know, I like the idea of that, but I don't like how it turned out. So let me find a way to emulate that and make it look just a little bit different based on a technique I can come up with, or I see someone else do. And that's the biggest thing about painting is don't try to copy people. I mean, I know copying makes it easier, but when you try to copy, then you end up dissatisfied with the results when it doesn't look exactly like the thing the person is making. So if you were trying to copy my Stormtroopers and it doesn't look exactly like my Stormtroopers when you're done, you're not going to be happy with the result. Instead, find techniques to emulate. Because techniques you can apply to multiple different types of models too. So like me, I don't just paint Star Wars Legion, I paint board games. My orange wasn't dry, and that's not good here. Got into my wash a little bit. That's okay. We can salvage it. Thought it was dry. I paint board game miniatures, as I was saying before. I had to have a hurry freak out session. Kingdom Death Monster is one of my favorite sets of miniatures to paint. They are just so different. And I'm going to be at the Gen Con, or I'm going to be at Gen Con, and I'm going to be drooling all over the Kingdom Death Monster booth there. Because, yeah, I love their stuff. I love the game too. The game's a lot of fun. If you haven't played it, I would recommend it. I don't necessarily like some of their more questionable models, but the game content stuff is amazing to me. I know they're controversial, some of their miniatures. Alright, we just gotta let wash dry. And then we'll apply our spaceship exterior. We'll highlight up a few things, and then we will be just about finished with these Stormtroopers. And I'll take a break for a little bit, and then we'll move on to something else. So, spaceship exterior. And I'm actually, for Stormtroopers, is one of the few that I pull matte white off the shelf. I'm going to mix spaceship exterior and matte white into a highlight color that I'm happy with. we're going to highlight the dome on his head. The nose, bridge of his nose. Again, we're going to focus mostly on the face for some of our highlights. Right under each eye. This is your chance to touch up some of those eye mistakes that you may have made. Just pick out little details as you go. Across this little rounded ridge on the back of the helmet is a great place to put a highlight that really kind of just makes them stand out. So, and then we're going to pick out some of these arm ridges and the top of the shoulder. Got some onto my black. I know I have forgotten to wash the guns and stuff. I didn't forget yet. Just highlighting white. One of my least favorite things to do on the planet. Just highlight white. Yay. Alright. And then we're going to take some pure white and we're really going to go, we'll hit the bridge of the nose with it right underneath each eye again. Really make some of these highlights pop. Or, you know, I'll mess something up again. Yay. We got it though. Got it. Tops of the shoulder pads. And the front of the forehead of the helmet. Alright, next, Stormtrooper. Top of the head. Down the nose. Or blob it on. Way to go, Dustin. Too much paint on my brush. Trying to work too quick. I know I'm in a hurry, but I'm not in that much of a hurry. Again, we're just hitting some of the upturn armor. I'm not touching the stuff on the bottom. And when you're doing these white highlights, always push your white or pull your white up towards the top, like the highest point on the miniature, or the highlight that you're trying to, where you want your highlight to accumulate is what I'm trying to say. Because, especially when you're working with thin down white, it likes to pool wherever the brush lifts. So make sure you're pulling it where you want it to be the brightest. It is by no means a quick process. This takes time. Which is why I don't like doing white, because it just takes time. I've talked about the shortcuts that I use for the basing and stuff, but for highlighting white, it's just a matter of time. Alright. Into my pure white highlight color almost. Front of that helmet. Right on the nose, right under each eye. Be sparing with the pure white highlights or it loses its effect. If you cover everything in pure white, then it doesn't look like it's white anymore. Or it just loses any of the contrast and effects and everything. Pick out some of the edges. And again, you can do as much or as little of this highlighting as you want. You go as far as you want to so that you're happy with your miniature. Alright, next, back to our spaceship exterior in white. Cover the whole top of the head with it. Come down the nose. These little spots on the side. Under the eye. If you've joined us late, thanks for stopping by. Glad to have you. Leave a message in the comments. Let me know you're here. I would love to chat with you. We're just painting up Stormtroopers for a Legion tournament that I'm going to tomorrow. These are my personal miniatures. Not that I don't have plenty of commissions to work on. I am very busy booked with commissions, but I have been putting these Stormtroopers off, this last squad of Stormtroopers off since release. And I finally needed to break down because I need them for my list tomorrow. I saw something, a highlight on this other miniature I wanted to fix. Right on his chest. I don't like the way the armor was looking. It was pretty dark. Cut it out of the corner of my eye. Alright, back to this guy. Again, I don't try to go for a pure clean look on my Stormtroopers. I want them to look like they're maintained. But they are also out in the combat. So they're going to look kind of gray. If you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, let me know. I don't know if there's even any of you in here or not. I haven't finalized my list yet. I just know that I need Stormtroopers. So I only had 4 squads done, and so I think I'm running 5. I haven't finalized the rest of it around it. I'm leaning towards probably Boba and Bosk with some Stormtroopers. I gotta use that Bosk I painted up last night on stream. You know how that is. Alright, into our pure white. And front of the head. Again, we're going to focus on the areas that we want people's eyes to be drawn to. Typically that's the face. And then we'll get a couple other places, like the tops of the shoulders near the face. Nice. This isn't an RPQ, this is ATC, is tomorrow, American Team Championship, and it's not an RPQ. If you have friends that play in the Warhammer community, you may have heard of ATC in the past. Or if you listen to any of the Legion podcast or the Stabcast guys, you may have heard of the ATC. So I'm going down there for that tomorrow. It's just an hour hop from the house, so I'm actually part sponsor for it, so I'm kind of obligated to go. But our hopes is next year to get it to be an official tournament of some sort. Good luck in your RPQ tomorrow. Hopefully you do better than I did in my last one I participated in. I paint this game well. Playing it's a different question, different beast all in and of itself. Oops, went into the wrong paint first, but that's okay. Like I said, use this white highlights to cover up anywhere you missed on the eyes earlier if you went over onto the little frames of the eyes. That's why I didn't bother fixing it earlier. I'm all for time saving. Not a whole lot to talk about what I'm doing, just doing white highlights. Lots of white highlights. Yay. Are you going to Gen Con? Buffaleficus, I think is your name? Nice. I'm playing Thursday there. I'll be there. Maybe I'll see ya. maybe I can do as well as I did last year at Indy. I didn't win, but I made top table day 1. And then lost to Nick of Impact X. Nobody mentions the guy who got 2nd place. Honestly, I go for the painting stuff I enjoy. I mean, I don't enter any of the official Gen Con painting stuff, but last year's FFG painting was fun. And I get to claim the first ever Gen Con Legion painting award. I was pretty happy about that. Alright, onto our pure white. Need to thin it out just a touch. You guys thinking you'll have a big turnout for your RPQ tomorrow? Yeah, got some white on there. On the gun. Boo. I'll be glad. Max out at 24. Yeah, that's not a bad RPQ turnout. Hopefully you get that. I mean, I guess less people always increases your odds, right? But I'd rather have more people and have fun. Did this guy? No, he wasn't done yet. Okay. You doing anything else at Gen Con besides just Legion? Well, you got a busy schedule. I'm just signed up for Legion. And I think I'm going to help a board game distributor out Friday afternoon and demo at their booth. Or a board game publisher. They saw that I painted some of their miniatures for their game for my personal collection, and they asked if I would be willing to come demo that game for them. For compensation, of course. And then, of course, you know, if I do well enough on Thursday, which probably won't happen, isn't there more Legion on Saturday if you do well enough on Thursday or Friday? Since this year they only let you join one day, last year they let you play multiple days of Legion. I've never played Armada. I've wanted to try it. It looks like a lot of fun. I enjoyed X-Wing a lot in 1.0, but then Legion came out, and I can only commit to one war game. I don't have time for multiple like that, especially with all the painting I've got to do. And Legion became it because I've always wanted a Star Wars ground combat system that was not dumb. Because I know that... Bless it. Hold on. Got paint somewhere I didn't want it. I know they've had a few different Star Wars combat systems, but I was not super impressed with some of the other ones. So I think they nailed it this time. I only got 2 more after this one. And I will be happy when I'm done painting these guys. white. Second to last one. And then we've got to highlight our orange on the captain. And wash and highlight the guns, and then we'll be done. Washing and highlighting the guns is easy, though. We are getting there. Just had to break down and actually do them. After many, many months of them sitting painted white and ready to be painted. I just got so burned out on painting Stormtroopers that I didn't want to touch them. And then now I've been asked to just paint mostly Rebels lately. Got burned out on painting some Rebels. So now here I am painting Stormtroopers again. But we'll get to have fun with the basing. I'm going to do some more four spacing like I did for my boss yesterday. Pure white highlights. Alright, last guy. And then we're done with white. need to clean my brush off real quick. Had some goop getting up in the ferrule, and I don't want that to happen. Especially not on this brush. It's my fine detail brush. If I lose that, I don't know how I'll paint. I'd have to go get a new one. All right. The nice thing about this guy is he takes less highlighting than the other ones because of his pose. And honestly, like I've said, you'll probably never see the table anytime soon. But might as well paint them. Gotta paint Stormtroopers anyways. Getting there, getting there. Alright, onto our pure white highlight. And then we are done highlighting white. Hooray! Alright. Next thing is I'm going to highlight the orange on this guy's shoulder pad. Just using that base mythical orange right now. Then I'm going to come over into my white and contrast it, or I'm losing my terms. I'm going to lighten it up a little bit, for lack of a better term. And I'm going to try to do some on-model wet blending. So, before it's completely dry, I'm going back over it with a lighter color. And then go back into my darker color and just kind of blend it up towards the higher areas. I can't. My music player popped up over my window. I can't see it. There we go. Alright. So, last step, we need to get some dark tone. This is dark tone, but it's thin dark tone, so we're not going to use that. We need some regular dark tone. And we're going to real carefully apply this to all of the guns. And this guy's backpack. Try not to get it on your white areas. You worked really hard to highlight those up. And this will naturally, since we use the necromancer cloak, it will naturally provide highlights on the black. And we'll just use some gunmetal to bring those highlights. Pick out some select areas of highlights. Get the guns and the gloves. And the holsters. Sorry about that. I had to mute my mic for a minute. Almost done with this part. I will be glad when I am done with Stormtroopers for a while. One more. Alright, we gotta let those dry for a minute, and then we will highlight some guns up. But while I'm waiting for that to dry, I can come back in here, get some of my electric blue, and highlight up these little power pack things that are on this. And bring back the blue color on those, and then come over into my white. And just a small streak right there. Just these little details that make your models look different in pop. Alright, while we're waiting on those to finish, we can work on our basing. Because the only thing I'm going to need to do is add some gunmetal as soon as the wash is finished drying. So. Bases. We need strong tone. Wash our bases. That one's not quite as dry as I want it to be, so we'll get a different one. Usually you want to try to do these like the day before the Liquitex stuff on there, because they do take, the Liquitex Resin Sand takes a minute to dry. But I did not do that. That's why I have them in front of a fan under my desk. Alright, I'm going to toss these back down in front of the fan as soon as I finish this one to help them have the wash dry a little bit faster. So bear with me. Alright, let's see. We're dry enough that we can pick out just a few select gun highlights here. Gunmetal. You won't need a whole lot because you're just doing some very small highlights. So on this guy, we're going to pick out a couple of edges and make it just look scratched. Not much. Just to give them a little color detail, and then just pick out some of the edges of the gun. Again, you don't want to go overboard with this because Imperials take care of their stuff. And then on his E11 blaster, same thing. Just a couple spots to give it some shine for the light to pick off. On the captain, same thing. Commander, whatever he is. Unit leader. On the Rocketeer, same. And this is essentially how I paint Stormtroopers. You could put these on a plain base and you would have painted an entire squad of Stormtroopers in less than 2.5 hours. Basing's probably not going to take but another 30 minutes or so, so depends on how long that wash takes to dry. So, finish Stormtroopers. Just darken something on the helmet here with the Stormtrooper. Alright, clean up my paint desk a little bit while I'm waiting. And what I'm going to do is dig through my basing bits, see what I want to put on there. So I talked about earlier, I use inexpensive basing bits. I picked up a bunch of crap when I was out camping last time. And I do that regularly. So we've got a leaf I'll probably crumple up. Couple of small sticks that I can break up to put on the bases. Another leaf. Have some small rocks. This stuff, if you get it small enough, it makes it look natural. Because it is natural. And I paid exactly $0 for all this stuff. Next time you're out and about, take a look on the ground and see what you can find that you think might look great on bases. Alright, I think I got enough picked up. Waiting on these bases to dry so we can dry brush them. We're going to dry brush them with our leather brown. While I'm waiting, we'll need PVA glue. While I'm waiting for those bases to dry, I'm going to step away for just a second and use the facilities. I'll be right back. Alright, I am back. Let's see if we are dry yet. One is. 2. 3. 4. That one's dry enough. so we can start working on getting these ones made up. So, leather brown. Squeeze some out onto my cheapy palette. Doesn't need to be on my wet palette for dry brushing. Get my dry brush out. Get the bristles all good and mashed. Really want them pretty messy. Pick up some of that brown paint. Take it on here. Brush most of it off. And then bring it on there. Actually, I may go a little bit brighter. We're going to go up to desert yellow instead. It's just not picking out as much detail as I would have hoped. I know we did bosks in the leather brown, but I want it to be a little bit brighter. Yeah, there we go. And we don't have to be super neat with the dry brushing. We're really dry brushing it with a wetter brush than I normally would dry brush. Because a lot of it's going to get covered with basing material or flock anyways. Alrighty. Rinse my dry brush out good. Set it off to the side. Get my grass tub out. Get my, where did it go? Here it is. My glue brush. Dab on some PVA glue in the areas that I want grass to be on this one. You don't have to be super neat about it. You can do as much or as little grass as you want. Take it, dunk it in my grass. Give it a tap on the bottom. Make sure you get all that loose grass off. Get the little piece of paper that's in there. I gotta blow in the one done. You can thin your PVA glue down a little bit if you want. It makes it stick just a little bit less, but I didn't care to for this project. Tap, tap, tap. Again, you can put as little or as much grass on there as you want. Some of them I put more than others, intentionally. Just remember that usually with grass flocklesses, there's a happy medium, depending on the look you're going for. And usually if there's a spot on the base where I miss some resin sand, I always make sure I put some flock on there, just so it covers. Alright. Seven bases done. Well, 7 bases flocked. Next step for me is to start gluing them onto their bases, and then we'll put the rest of the flocking material on there. So peel them off their little plinths here. It's the nice thing about hot glue, is all it takes is a little back and forth rocking and they snap right off. Alright, now I have to pick who I want on what. He's probably going to go on the one with the most grass, just because I don't like the way it looks. And he's going to cover up a bunch of it, so... grab my other bottle of super glue, because that's the bad one. Throw them in these here, apparently. Two more to glue on. One more. All right. Now for the rest of our basing materials. So, this guy, I want to rock. a stick. Just a basic base for him. On my DLT, I want a large log. I'm just sticking these on with PVA glue. And probably a rock. On my captain, I want my other large log. That I had pulled out. And we're going to crumple up a few leaves to put on there. So take a little bit of glue, dab it in the places I want the leaves to go, and pick them up with my fingers and drop them on there. Push them down in there. Maybe he needs a rock also. You go as far with your basing or as little as you want. Alright, smaller sticks on some of these guys. Stick there. Maybe we'll have crisscross sticks. And a stick on this guy. And make sure you kind of randomize your bases. Nature's random. A rock. And last but not least, more sticks. And whatever this piece of bark is going on there too. Alright. And with that, we have a squad of finished Stormtroopers. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you learned something if you needed to. Give you some ideas to paint your own Stormtroopers. I will have pictures up on my Facebook page once the glue dries, but here's essentially what they turned out as. And like I said, the pictures on the Facebook page are going to look better than what I can get here on the camera, but again, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'm still deciding if I'm going to paint the medbots up tonight. I really need to focus on some list building, so if I do, I'll be back in a little while and I'll turn on another stream in maybe an hour or so. So with that, have a good night. If I see you again, I see you again. If not, Buffalicious, good luck to, or Buff Luffacus, good luck tomorrow on your RPQ. Thanks for stopping on by. Everybody, have a good night. This is Dustin with Jagged Brush Studios signing off.